Welcome home. We are WNST. Towson, Baltimore. Baltimore positive. We are positively into a baseball week. They're all baseball weeks, which is the beauty of being independent race. It's also the bad news when you wake up after another loss and a bullpen loss. We're going to be on Friday at Fadley's, hoping things go better against the Cheat Stros. The Gold Rush Sevens doublers. I'm getting rid of these. The Raven scratch offs. I haven't even seen them yet, but we do have a commercial running for them. And I did have John Martin and Seth Elkin and a whole bunch of other great guests last week. Had a really enjoyable time. Hard to believe I can go to Ocean City and sit in a convention hall, 39th Street, and have a good time, but I did. And you'll hear the remnants of that here at AM 1570. You can find it all out at Baltimore Positive. In the meantime, the Ravens get ready for more fake football in Green Bay and cuts next week. We get ready for a Labor Day holiday around here. There's a Democratic convention going on, all sorts of things going on. But the Orioles are playing baseball up at Citi Field. The owner had a really good seat. I'm writing a letter to David Rubenstein and others in the coming weeks. And, I mean, it's a winnable game there, Luke. And I don't know what else to say. Like they put themselves, we want more out of Rodgers. We want more out of this and that. And certainly the early going wasn't great, but a winnable game, and a game that I feel like the good Orioles, the ones pre-All-Star break, won these kinds of games.
They got to score more than 3 runs. I mean, we can talk about Trevor Rogers. He wasn't great, but he was competitive, was better than some of his previous starts. I get it. He's their fifth best starter right now. I mean, that's where it is. If Grayson Rodriguez comes back in the way that the Orioles expect him to, and all of this, I mean, we could see Trevor Rogers go back to the minors. He has options, or we could see him in the bullpen. I mean, it's that simple. But Nestor, if you tell me before Monday night's game that Trevor Rogers, Colin Selby, Keegan Aiken, and Sir Anthony Dominguez are going to combine to give up 4 runs, I will probably take that, in all honesty, with the assumption that, hey, my offense, and between the two of us, I'm the one that sticks up for the offense a little bit more here of late. But that was absolutely a game where you got to do more. I get it. David Peterson's good. He pitched well. I understand that. But
until he didn't, right? They let him into, you talk about beating our manager up. To me, 10 too many for him.
Well, sure. Well, and certainly a balk and then giving up a home run to Ramon Arias. Absolutely. But, I mean, it's just this simple. This current state of the pitching staff is a fraction of what it once was, or what we thought it could be with a healthy Kyle Bradish and John Means, and go down the list. And obviously guys in the bullpen too, Danny Coulomb and Jacob Webb. Offensively,
and Batista, throw him in there.
Oh, I'm not going to throw Batista in there, because we've known since
it's gone.
last October.
Right. Okay, all right.
All
right. I got you.
It's a challenge, but Mike Elias knew that, right? I mean, that's one thing that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when I hear people kind of talk about the pitching and they say, well, the Orioles haven't had Felix, but they knew that last October. You have to treat it as though Felix Batista left or retired in terms of roster building.
Well, they knew in January Bradish might not be around, which is what got Burns, right?
Right. And that's a fair point too. Anyway, that's just a little tiny aside. Your point's well taken. And point is, other than Jordan Westberg, they're healthy. Well, on the offensive side, and Jorge Mateo, if you want to throw him in there, but Jorge Mateo is certainly not a guy that leads the way with the bat. We know that, but they've got to score more than 3 runs. 3 runs is not going to cut it. We've talked about this, that the current state of this pitching staff, other than nights where Corbin Burns, last Friday night aside, and I guess recently the month of August, but other than that, Corbin Burns and Zach Eflin, maybe Albert Suarez, and I'm saying that as a compliment to Suarez. You score 3 runs, it's probably not going to win you many ball games.
You're going to lose. With the current state, going to lose, right?
Yeah, they're not the 1995 Braves. They're not built to win 2-1 or 3-2 right now. I mean, they're just not. So it really is that simple. You've got to score more runs, and I get it. It's disappointing that Sir Anthony Dominguez gives up a home run in the 9th inning. And if he now goes through a rut where he's given up runs and is looking like the other bullpen guys, then, oh boy.
Give me the Selby guy. I want the guy with the biggest beard. Let him close,
You know what, though? I mean, he pitched well. I was kind of surprised by that. Kind of threw that backup slider.
He impressed Jim Palmer.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Am I going to sit here and say, oh, suddenly Selby's going to be their eighth inning guy come the late September and October? No, but if he can give you a lift, if he can help you out in a time of need, I mean, how about Keegan Aiken? He struck out five guys in 2 innings. Keegan Aiken, I, let me be clear about this. I
The
am not
league's
at
not
all.
even hitting 200 off him, dude.
That's what
He's
I'm saying. He quietly, and let's be clear, he hasn't been asked to pitch a whole lot in high leverage situations. And there have been some times over the course of the year where he has been in that spot
and it's
and it
ball
hasn't
one.
gone well.
Yeah.
But he quietly has had a solid season for them. I mean, look, the numbers are what they are. He's got a 3.5 ERA. He does miss some bats. Do I trust him to pitch in the eighth or ninth inning of one run game most nights? No, of course not. But the bar's really low right now for their bullpen, Nestor. We know that. So he quietly has done a decent job for them. And I mean, he gave them a chance. And again, your offense needs to score more than 3 runs. On a night when Trevor Rogers is starting, and on a night when Selby and Aiken are guys that are pitching meaningful innings for you in a tight game, and Sir Anthony Dominguez is your only, quote, top guy that pitches out of the pen, 3 runs isn't going to cut it. I mean, it's just that simple. So I don't mean to be flippant about it, but and I get it. Peterson, he's a good pitcher. He's got a 3 ERA. I'm not saying that they went up against a scrub, but we talked about this over the weekend. I mean, look at Saturday night. I mean, they got such an impressive start from Cade Povich, and they scored 1 run. Even Sunday, where they win, they had 3 hits in that game. Now 2 of them were home runs, but they had 3 hits. So their offense has to pick it up. I mean, it just has to.
Well, that's it. That's a snapshot there. They won a game with 3 hits, 2 of them were home runs, and that's what they do. They hit home runs. And I mean, we had a team 10 years ago that hit a lot of home runs around here too. And
Right.
but getting on base, walking, extending at bats, hitting your pitch, hitting a pitch, making contact, all of that. What what don't you like about it right now? And on a night to night basis, back when it was bring Norby up or bring Holiday up or bring Mayo up or let's get rid of pick your guy. Hayes, Mullins, Santander at one point, and Mountcastle at various points, Mateo several points, right? So, man, we're 5.5 weeks out on the moment of truth, right? Where they're gonna be where they are and have to play the way they're gonna have to play, whether they get a bye or not. And it's really weird. We keep waking up after another bad offensive night. Closer blew a game. His starter did okay. Middle of the bullpen did get some good news in there, but you wake up in first place.
Yeah.
And it's like they're falling sideways, not even backward, not forward. But it does feel like the wild card thing's catching up to the whole pack a little bit because of the losing.
Yeah. I mean, they fall a half game behind the Yankees because the Yankees were idle on Monday night. But you look at the standings, and I mean, we just saw a team that's right there vying for a wild card spot in the Boston Red Sox. I mean, that's what you're looking at. Seattle, who has been so mediocre for quite a long period of time now. Kansas City has on the flip side, they've really come on. I mean, don't look now, but Kansas City's in that last wild card spot. They're tied with the Minnesota Twins, and they have a plus 111 run differential. I mean, that's a legit profile right there. The Royals are absolutely an ascending team. They kind of feel a little bit like last year's Orioles, not in the sense that I think they're going to be the number one seed. Let's be clear, but just in the sense of they've really grown up quickly, and obviously Witt's leading the way for them. I mean, an MVP caliber talent right there. But they've got other good young players, and they pitch pretty well. I mean, I think they're just a shade under 500 runs allowed. The Orioles are like 544. The Twins are 540. When I'm just looking at the wild card standings right now. So, those. I mean, we're not talking about teams that are juggernauts here. We're talking about teams that are, going to be in the realm of maybe 90 wins, somewhere like that. 92 wins. If they play well.
Well, I'm wondering what kind of ball they're going to play. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
this next 5 or 6 weeks, if this is a real stumble, they could get themselves not just get themselves into trouble having to play this thing out. They're going to have to play this thing out either way, but getting themselves into trouble of playing this thing out, not from that catbird position of we're fine, we're fine, we're fine. There comes a point where when the teams start to catch up, and that brought me to the Mets because it's not like I pay attention to the National League. I mean, I'm watching all sorts of things going on with baseball, but I'm like, the Mets, like, they think they can make the playoffs. And when you're playing these teams this time of year that think they can, or sometimes think they can't, no, they can't, there can be spoiler. And we're going to have a little bit of that around Labor Day, too, where you're playing like the worst teams in the league. You look down, you say, well, there's 6 games there. Are they going to get 5 of them, 4 of them, 6 of them? Like, and how that math starts to add up because the math is this has gotten crunchy at a time where we were on cruise control most of the year, just like we're in, we're in, we're in, we're in, we're in. I don't know, man. Get swept by Houston this weekend and it's a mess. You like quickly. And we weren't saying that when they were getting swept by the Cardinals. It was just it's June. All of a sudden everything gets a little tighter for these young players, for the fans for sure, who've already Dude, I should have snapshot how many players they want benched, how many times Brandon Hyde should be fired, which is insane. I mean, just insanity stuff that I'm glad I'm not Rex Barney taking the phone calls anymore because, like, the fans are out on the ledge with every Sir Anthony blown save on a night when, like, we thought he was going to be the closer. We're moving into that role, and now all of a sudden he moves to he didn't do it on Monday night. It's so day to day for all of this, but this team's good enough, and this would be a terrible potential thing if they get into the playoffs and get bounced right away again, like and fight all this way. That I mean, I'm trying to figure out ways they can succeed in October. And to your point, it's the bats. And I don't know individually that I'm going to go after Rutschman or after any of these guys and say more, more, more. Henderson, all of them, just more, more, more.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, it's one thing for you or me to look at what's going to happen over the next 5 weeks and which series, quality of the opponent, all that. I mean, they really have to get back to compartmentalizing and not worrying about that and just playing that night's game. I mean, it's that simple. When you're struggling, I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, and that sounds cliche. That sounds a little manager speak, but it's the truth. I mean, I think if they're thinking the same way that like how we've talked, that's part of the problem, right? I mean, that's part of it where you jump out to being 20 or 24, their high water mark was 24 games over 500 and you just you're not consciously saying it, but if you're thinking deep down that, we're in great shape, we can kind of not cruise, but we've got some cushion here. And they do. I
And
mean,
they do.
that's
Yeah.
not untrue, right? I mean, we've been talking about that's been the story for close to 2 months now. But at some point in time, you got to make your move. And again, it starts with wanting to win the division because of the format, because of the wild card round being a best of three, where you literally have a bad 27 hours and you're done, whether you're playing at home or on the road. I mean, how easily does that happen in baseball? Even if you're the best team going up against the worst team, that happens quite frequently. So you want to try to avoid that, but they're so banged up on the pitching side, and they're just not very good on the pitching side, and that's been the case for quite a while now. Yeah, you need Corbin Burns to pick it up. There's no question about that. Yeah, you need Dean Kramer to pitch better than he has for the bulk of the season because he's been at least a league average pitcher, starter over the last couple of years. Has not been that this year for the most part, and has dealt with obviously some physical concerns. But and the bullpen. I mean, I don't know who I'm expecting in the bullpen to beyond the obvious Craig Kimbrell and Gregory Soto, who do have track records of being way better than they've been. But you're also in the spot of when do you pitch them to try to get them on track? Uh, you have Selby who, actually pitched in wasn't high leverage on Monday night, of course, especially when you're trailing, but that wasn't mop up duty either. And he did a nice job keeping them in the game. So, but you're trying to figure this out. You think you're high leverage guys in Sir Anthony Dominguez. And look, I mean, he gave up a solo home run in a tie game, right? I mean, at some point in time, someone's going to score. That's why you need your offense to do more than 3 runs, and one of those runs came on a balk, by the way. So again, it's not even that they were mounting many threats, but they've got to get back to playing cleaner baseball. And we didn't even mention it. Tough play down the right field line for Anthony Santander in the corner there. That's not an easy play. I want to be very clear about that. But it hit his glove. I mean, it actually hit his bare hand as he's kind of bracing to hit the wall. That's a play that he absolutely could have made at the very least, and that saves you a run. I mean, how many times have we talked about that? I think the defense overall has tightened up over the last couple of weeks. I do think that's been something that's been better compared to where it was, say, a month ago.
And we've talked
But
about it too much the last 2 months,
yeah,
far more than we have for a year and a half.
yeah. So again, when we're talking about what the major problem is, which is obviously on the pitching side with the injuries they've had and the guys that they're having to rely on right now. I mean, it is a far from full strength starting rotation and a far from full strength bullpen. And yes, I'll even throw in Felix Batista in that one. I just don't want people to dwell on that from a roster building standpoint because they've known that all along that he wasn't going to. But point is, their margin for error with their pitching is so small at this point in time. So, yeah, I am going to ask the offense that is much healthier and much more complete on paper, anyway, to do the heavier lifting. I am going to ask the defense that, let's face it, has been really mediocre. And even the defensive metrics like defensive runs saved and some of those, some of the StatCast metrics suggest their defense has been mediocre. They've got to pick it up because there's a situation right there. Again, not, it wasn't a routine pop up that Santander just dropped. That's a tough play right by the wall, especially a place where you don't play a ton of games, right? A National League ballpark. But I mean, he absolutely could have caught that and saves you a run in that spot. A run was really important in that game, obviously. So, it's the little things, right? So, yeah, you need your offense to score more runs and to be more productive. They've really had a tough run against left-handed starting pitching. We've talked about Rutschman, but Ryan Mountcastle has to pick it up. Quietly here of late, Santander. Now he's continued to hit some home runs, but his overall profile the last few weeks, he's fallen off a little bit. They've got guys in their lineup that they need more from. They absolutely need more from. I mean, Ramon Arias has been one of their best hitters the last few weeks, which great for Ramon, especially another one of those guys that you just mentioned a few minutes ago that was in that group that people wanted to jettison and get
He was
rid
always
of.
the 27th guy on the roster, right?
Yeah, but
Well,
he's
and,
done a
and the
nice
other
job.
thing
But
with him is if you take his numbers and where Westberg was and put him in minus the Mayo,
yeah,
nothingness, the productivity in that spot hasn't dropped off as dramatically. And when Cowser took that pitch the other night, I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
that's smelled like Markakis to me. And like, so I got the yips about all of that with these guys and getting stupid fights and like there's been bad blood with Yankees and this and that. Like this next month, this is talk about the tightness of the Ravens and Kansas City on the 5th. Man, we're going to have a day-by-day roller coaster around here in a much bigger way than last year where there was no expectation on the baseball team. And it was just they were winning and it was fun. It was party. And how much of the playoff tickets? Oh, my God. We went through that, by the way. You can go find that out at Baltimore Positive about the Birdland memberships and stuff. But just the fans in general and what the expectation is, what the promise and the hope was when they had better pitching. Um, you know, when this is all over with and they don't win the World Series, but look back and we'll say, dude, look what happened to their pitching. The same way 2 years ago that the last time Harbaugh talked to me at the cocktail parties, like, we had a lot of injuries last year. And, it's hard to win without your number 2 starter, your 3 starter, a couple guys in the bullpen. You take a bad break with an all-star third baseman. And some of that's worked out okay. But to your point, they're going to win the World Series based on Henderson, Rutschman, maybe Westberg. Certainly Santander at this point would be he can win the home run derby. So these are their Burns is going to have to pitch big in October. Like that's the reality of all of this. And if that doesn't happen, they don't have to worry about Craig Kimbrell blowing a game for them, right? I mean, it won't be about that.
yeah. Well, I mean, think about last year. I mean, there was so much on the bullpen. It was right around this time. We're coming up on a year from the time that Felix Batista walked off the mound with his elbow injured. And we talked about that all through last year. And keep in mind, I mean, they were in a tight race all of last year. I mean, they were right there with the Rays. I mean, they were holding off the Rays, but it was a game lead, a 2 game
Dude, but
lead.
from the fans' perspective, it was just
Well,
fun to make the playoffs.
I
It really
understand that, but
was, you know?
I'm trying to focus. The fans feel
Yeah.
how they want to feel, like but I'm talking about the players themselves. They were in this position where their bullpen was very much a question mark. Now, their bullpen did an admirable job. Their bullpen statistically held up really well, and you had guys that were kind of pitching over their heads, for lack of a better term. Maybe not Cano as much because he was better in the first half last year than he was down the stretch, but certainly Danny Coulomb and CNL Perez and Jacob Webb and go down the list. Tyler Wells came into the picture the last 10 days of the regular season and, even closed out a game or two for them. But you just said it. For all the focus on the bullpen, the bullpen didn't factor all that much in that Texas series. I mean, a little bit in game one, but they just got blasted and it was over, right? I mean, there were no high leverage situations late in those games. So, yeah, I mean, the bullpen's a big part of it, but they have to be better across the board. And when I look at where they are across the board, their offense is much healthier. The state of their position player group is better than the state of their pitching. It's a very simple thing, and I just put this out on social media in the aftermath of Monday night's game, where I just said that you need more than 3 runs. It's this simple. The formula for Monday night is not my below average pitching staff pitch better than that. The formula for Monday night was my above average offense needs to play at an above average level. And they didn't do that. The pitching was fine in the collective, right? In the aggregate, it was fine. 4 runs,
For a
as I
fifth
said, going into
start
that
on the
night.
road against the Mets,
I'll take that.
I'll
It's not.
take it.
I'm not
Yes.
doing cartwheels over it, but I'll take it, and
If
I'll
I
say,
get that in game 3 of the ALCS, I'm good with it.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends who you're facing in game 3, but yeah, I mean, any night that's not started right now by Corbin Burns, Zach Eflin, or Albert Suarez, I'll probably say, yeah, 3 or 4 runs allowed. I'll take that with the assumption that I need my offense to be better. I need my offense to do what it's capable of doing. And they have too many guys in that lineup who, frankly, have just not been all that good of late. I mean, we've talked about it
They
a lot
don't
with
have
Rutschman.
rallies, dude, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they got 3 hits in a game. You get they don't draw a walk, get a single, steal a base, hit a double. It's 3-run home run. We got 3. We got a crooked number. Let's send Grayson back out there or whatever. Like not now, but they don't have these long extended innings and bat around and do all of that. Because they don't walk a lot and they swing a lot, and that's Elias likes that profile. I mean, they didn't like Rutschman taking pitches last year. I mean, and I
Uh,
see these talking points where they bring in the analytics people. I don't know what they preach there, but I do feel like maybe the way they're approaching things. And you mentioned, and I want to bring you down on this too, because you said, I don't care what the fans think of the players. I'm like, hold on. I speak as a fan and I've been around it enough and it's been a little while.
I didn't mean it
But
like that.
the players feel that pressure too. That last year was just fun and fun and fun and fun, and we're in and we're in and we're in. And it was that way in April and May, getting back to that fun part of baseball where baseball's fun and we do walk-offs and we all celebrate and we all pie Melanie after the game. And like, there hasn't been a whole lot of that around here. And that's part of the joy of all of it. When the thing you said a couple weeks ago when they were losing, they're pressing. Now I always thought that's kind of like that's a cliche thing. What does that mean? I think if I were to get down to the head of what that means is I sat around the hotel all day and we lost last night and we're in New York and it's a big city and I'd like to go out and well, I got a game and man, we haven't won in a couple days and it might be my turn in the bullpen tonight or it might be, hey, I'm starting tonight or whatever. Like where you are and how you feel all day and then you see the standings. The one thing that feels good as a fan and as a player is when you wake up, you're not 5 games behind. You know what I mean? Like because of all of this anarchy and bad things, every error, every bad start, every injury, you still got a very, very clear path to a 1 seed if you hit the ball.
Yeah, yeah, and again, when I was talking about the fans, it was I'm not really, my job isn't to interpret how fans feel. My job is to look at what the club's doing and how the club might feel about things. And that's what I meant about that. I mean, every things about the fan base, every market in baseball that has a team that's relevant right now has that, right? You overreact to everything. I mean, a lot of it is football is our top sport in this country, and fan mentalities have really kind of, that mentality is kind of that's been
Dude,
bleeding
I've been a
into other sports.
bartender for this city for
Sure, sure,
33 years. Like
sure. But
it fatigued me. The drunk 2 a.m. talk of firing the manager is just not
right.
something we do around here ever. I told the
Well,
Whistler that. I'll tell Mr. Rubenstein. It's not who we are. It's not what we do. But there is a point for these players in this group. They know this thing's teetering. Kimbrel's in there, to your point, there's a responsibility when guys are booting balls and Santander's in the outfield feeling like I should have caught that ball. And then they lose and it starts to stack up. And I know how heavy that gets. And I feel the tightness as a fan every day saying, this thing's getting a little tighter than I thought it was going to be. I think it's that way for the whole organization. And I also think Elias knows he can't get much help here. You and I could sit here and talk about where's the help coming from, but much like all of us, I know you're a spiritual guy. It's coming from within.
oh, more so, yes, but also you're waiting on some guys to get healthy. I mean, that's what it is. You can't speed up the process there. I mean, Danny Coulombe's throwing, Jacob Webb's throwing, Grayson Rodriguez just played catch. Uh, Jordan Westberg is improving. I mean, he still has a splint, and I mean, it's a bone that has to heal, right? I mean, I think all those guys have a really good chance of being back. Now you get to this point in the season, any little setback could be the difference of being ready and not being ready, for the last, at least by the last week of September, let's say, where, you'd want to get all these guys at least some regular season action. But yeah, they've got to step it up. They've got to tighten it up. I mean, the thing I will say, and especially when you use the term teetering, let's also understand this hasn't been a collapse, right? I mean, they haven't gone through a stretch where it's been so bad where, that they've had an 8-20 month, right? They've never had a period that bad. It's been, and look, again, since we kind of used the Yankees series in the Bronx back in late June as the high water mark, there are 4 games under 500 since then, right? Now that's bad, but that's not disastrous. That's not going from, and there aren't many teams that I can draw from as far as the Orioles of my lifetime that were good in the middle of a season and then really bad. I think back to the 2005 Orioles. They were up to 14 games above 500, and then they were 14 below 500 before you knew it later that summer, right? I mean, that's an extreme collapse in which their manager got fired. Rafael Palmeiro gets popped for steroids, and I mean the cart completely just derailed.
He never
So
took, of
they
course.
haven't had right, right. But the point is, I mean, that is truly an epic collapse. This team hasn't done that, and I'm not saying that to defend this team. I'm just saying you still have to, as a fan, as media, as players looking at this, that's where you do have to balance oh, well, we're not playing as well, but we're still okay, right? I mean, because you don't want to press. You don't want to, there's a balance between feeling urgency and doing things that where you're just going up there trying to hit a 5-run homer with the bases empty, right? I mean, and we've seen that. We've seen that from this team, and I mean that just in a general sense. You certainly see that, not just from this team, but any team that's going through some struggles. I mean, that's just part of the game. Failure is such a big part of what's baked into baseball compared to other sports. And there's waiting around dealing with that failure. It's not like basketball where you go down the floor and you miss a shot or you blow a layup and you can get the ball the next possession. You've got to wait your turn in the lineup, or if you're a starting pitcher, you got to wait your turn in the rotations. So there's a lot of time to think, right? I mean, baseball is we've heard it. It's a thinking man's game, right? It's a conversational game. It's a lot of time to think and talk in between those moments of action for the individual. And, that's part of what this team just, they're, I'm not going to sit here and play psychologist. I'm just saying in a general sense, any baseball player, any baseball team is going to go through some of that. But a lot of this is also, and I don't say this to be defeatist about it, because they do have some guys that are going to come back. But I also just think we're now roughly about a fifth of a season, or not a fifth, a third of a season where they've been a 500-ish kind of team, right? So
You are what you are.
you look at you look at the state of the pitching. I'm not sure how much better you can expect it to be on paper. Yes, Craig Kimbrell. Yes, Gregory Soto. Sure. Dean Kramer being a little bit better than he's been. Sure. Corbin Burns being better than he's been in August. Yeah, absolutely. I
Better
mean,
be.
they're going to need that, right? I mean that to me, I'm still treating more as outlier than disturbing trend. But you just kind of look at it and you say, yeah, back in March, when you and I went to Sarasota and we're taking in some spring training, if you're telling me come late August that Bradish is out for the year and John Means is out for the year and Tyler Wells is out for the year and Grayson Rodriguez has missed time and Dean Kramer missed what 5 weeks at one point, and they're missing Westberg, who blossomed into an all-star, but he's missing time down the stretch. And you tell me all that and the state of the bullpen. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if they're 73 and 53 through their first 126. So you kind of look at it through that lens and say, you know, they've been treading water for a long time at best. That's kind of the best way that you could describe it, the most positive way you can describe it. But they still have managed to avoid going in the tank completely, right? And I'm not saying that to compliment them. I'm saying that to describe just what the state of affairs is. So, you keep waiting. You're trying to get these guys back healthy. You're waiting and waiting, waiting for those guys. And yeah, you got to win games. You can't just point to that and say, oh, woe is me, we're not going to win games. That's why I said Monday night. That's why, to me, it's the offense. I can live with your pitching staff, with it being those guys that took the mound on Monday night, giving up 4 runs. You got to score more than 3. I mean, you have to. This team is not built for that. Maybe they once were. Kyle Bradish was pitching Monday night. Then sure, 3 runs might have done it, because Kyle Bradish is that great when he's
Especially
healthy.
with that bullpen.
But he's not out. Yeah, but he's not out there. So you've got to pick it up. You've got to find a way. And again, for this team, for these players, it truly is. You got to focus on that night's game. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that, right? I mean, sometimes you just struggle. Sometimes, again, it's a matter of looking at the makeup of the pitching staff, and you just say, maybe they're not much better than what they've been over the last 2 months, because of just all the attrition and some of the guys that have struggled, right? So, again, we're going to see. We're going to find out, right? They're going to play every night, for good or for bad. And we're going to see if they can get themselves on a roll. I mean, they're still, mathematically speaking, they are still in excellent shape. If you look at them in terms of playoff odds, the division is one thing, because they're right there with the Yankees, who have their own woes, their own issues that they've been dealing with, and they've been very mediocre since early June.
They've
right?
been firing the manager since May too, right?
Right. So but all is not lost by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, yeah, you've got to pick it up. You've got to find a way to get yourself on a roll here. And if you can do that and then start getting some of these guys back by, let's say, mid-September, then you've got that intriguing upside to then say, okay, they might not be the favorite. They might not be the team that you expect to go to the World Series in the way that last year they were the number 1 seed and had the best record and all of that. But they might be in a position where, if these guys come back and look like themselves, which is a big if, we don't, especially on the pitching side. But if they do that and they get Jordan Westberg back and get those guys a chance to at least, get acclimated a little bit, then, game on and see what happens in October, right? You roll the dice then. I mean, it really, I've said this to you over and over and over, and that's going to become even truer this year when there's no dominant team in the AL. I mean, there truly is not. If you think there is, I mean, the Orioles are right there with the Yankees, right? So I think we all agree neither of those teams have been dominant for a long time, but it's a crapshoot. It really is. So it really is a matter for me of, they've got to do enough. They've got to take care of their business over these next, this next month plus, and you hope to get those guys back, and you'll see where it stands right now. I've heard a lot of chatter as far as, Craig Kimbrell, whether he's going to be on the postseason roster. Well, if the postseason started today, you'd say no. 5 weeks from now, I have no idea. Craig Kimbrell could be back on track by then. And that's why you have to continue to try to pick your spots. Same with Soto. So I mean, I'm hoping Corbin Burns is way better than he's been his last couple times out. I mean, my goodness. I mean, there's a non-starter for you if he's not going to be Corbin Burns. But it really is just a matter of got to see how this plays out. I mean, that sounds dismissive. That sounds like I'm sitting on the fence. I've talked about this. I have major concerns about their pitching. Their offense needs to be better. I think it can be. On paper, it absolutely should be, but you've got to go out and do it. So, Monday was a great example of that. I get it. David Peterson's a good pitcher. He pitched well. I'm not saying I expected them to score 10 runs. Let's be clear about that. There's a middle ground here, but
well, he also threw a ball into center field he didn't need to throw, which pissed Palmer off, and then it cost him a run. Then he gave up a bomb. So,
right. So they got a couple
apart.
gifts.
It was kind of a Sidney Ponson seventh inning, as far as I could tell.
I mean, they got a couple gifts mixed in there, right? So, I mean, even with that, even when you get a couple moments of good fortune,
he pitched better than his number.
yeah. So, and again, that's going to happen. And let me be clear. I'm not saying the offense must score 5+ every single night. It's baseball. You're going to have some of that. So, but I think if you look at it from just an observation standpoint, there have been too many examples of that over the last month. But maybe go back to like the All-Star break, right? I mean, since then, their offense overall still hasn't been bad statistically, and I'll continue to say that because I'm the numbers guy. But it has been choppier, and again, this Boston series we talked about. I mean, the one night where they scored a bunch of runs, Corbin Burns has the worst start of his career. So sometimes you just look at it and say, man, they're just not. They can't get themselves going. Every time it feels like they're starting to get on a roll, they take another step back, and it's really been the story since late June. Again,
it's a weird thing being in a rut and being in first place. That's the part
half game
of it
out. Yeah, half game out, right? But right there. I mean, for lack of, I mean, they're right there with the Yankees. So I mean, it's
amazing how many times they have lost and woken up the next day in first place, though. Like when you're feeling like they're in free fall. But the other part of Kansas City, these other teams coming, we'll see. We'll see the Mets the next couple of days as well. Luke's going to see the Astros and the Cheatstros all weekend. The Ravens are going to get to see just how lovely Green Bay is in August. They're going to be there scrimmaging and then playing this week. I'm actually doing some Milwaukee radio. They still think I'm a media member in Milwaukee. I'll have to tell Doug Russell I'm not a real media member. I'll tell him where my podcast is. Luke can be found at Baltimore Luke. He can also be found in Camden Yards and in Owings Mills, as well as at Fadley's on Friday, where we're going to have the Maryland Lottery Gold Rush Sevens Doublers. Got a stack of these. Come down and grab them on Friday. Grab yourself a crab cake, some shrimp salad before the game. We have some good guests. Matt Coster's coming down from the Baltimore Firefighters. I'm going to talk some firefighters issues and unions. And a lot of my neighbors were firefighters in Dundalk, several of them in city firefighters as well. So I'll honor them this week. And we're getting a lot of great conversations. 2 senators, 3 congressmen, 3 county executives, and a opioid czar sitting in a pear tree. Emily Keller deserves better than that. Former mayor of Hagerstown joined us. The mayor of Frederick is with us this week. We've had cybersecurity conversations this week. Lots of good stuff. Luke and I have been talking football, baseball. We got some great guests coming up as well. Ian O'Connor came on to talk about his book on Aaron Rodgers, which I'm still not interested in Aaron Rodgers, even though I might be wearing Packers colors here right now in my El Guapo shirt. But he did make a fascinating conversation, so make sure you're checking that out. He's Luke. I'm Nestor. We're WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore. Positive.